Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining the Finjan Show. I'm your host, Faris Alami. And today's episode is sponsored by International Strategic Management, an entrepreneurship support organization that works with organizations and government to launch entrepreneurship activities, including small business development and ecosystem development in their local communities, with a focus on underserved, underrepresented, or minority groups. They've been doing this for the past 20 some years in over 100 countries. I'm honored to be affiliated with that. Thanks for being here with us. Today's discussion is all about setting up entrepreneurship activities within a community, specifically universities or colleges. In my experience for the past 15 years specifically, many colleges throughout the world are really trying to engage their student body to engage in entrepreneurship activities. And most of the communities I've worked with really don't focus on entrepreneurs. As a matter of fact, the parents usually send the kids to those colleges because they want them to get jobs in larger organizations. So the word entrepreneurs or business or startups is really not in the dictionary, nor that is in their mind as they enter these colleges. And some of the colleges today are exploring the concept of becoming an entrepreneurship university. I've heard this term in at least 10 different countries over the last 10 years. And although some colleges today offer entrepreneurship certificates, or some of them are working on degrees, and some do offer some degrees, it's still somewhat of a new concept. In many universities I've worked with, it seemed like they've taken the Business 101 class and scratched the topic and just called it Entrepreneurship 101. When in reality, entrepreneurship and business somewhat has nothing to do with each other in one way or another. Of course, there are lots of common things and they should be hand in hand, but it's not necessarily one or the other, meaning you can't just cross it off, say it's no longer business, it's now entrepreneurship. It's a completely different thing. So with that being said, the challenge with some of the universities are facing, I usually say, is more political than it is environmental. And what I mean by that, you got to make sure that you have support from the whole university versus just one or two individuals. Now, in the beginning, you might not, but you will need to create what I call champions that could make sure that those things happen. So let's take this step by step of how can you really launch an entrepreneurship program or innovation program or creative program at your campus, knowing that you have A, no resources, B, it's not really a mindset of the individuals in your organizations to do that. And C, you might find some resistance because the word of entrepreneurs or innovation or creative or business in general. And my experience has been, having done this with few universities throughout the world, is that it can be done. It takes time and it takes patience, and you got to be persistent. And you have to stick with the plan. And what I've seen is some of the universities I worked with, those who stuck with the plan were able to accomplish these things maybe a year or 2 years later. And those who kept changing it never really launched, and they're still talking about it. So I encourage you to be kind of like the entrepreneur themselves, launching these enterprises or their businesses, launching such programs in your university. Well, let's talk about those steps. Let's take a break. We'll be right back after this short message. Thank you so much for being with us. Welcome back. This is the Finjan Show. I'm your host, Faris Alami. And in today's discussion, we're talking about universities, specifically community colleges or universities, launching entrepreneurship programs in their community, knowing that it's not necessarily the thing to do in that community. So let's go back and now talk about the steps that can be taken to accomplish this. Well, there are a few things that you could do right away that could potentially bring attention to the entrepreneurship activities on your campus. The first thing you could easily do is start doing what I'm going to call side workshops, meaning that just a workshop on campus just to get people familiar with it, getting to see the word entrepreneurship, getting to see you have an idea, do you have a business concept. Those things could potentially do it. Now, if you really want to do a big impact, I'm going to say right away, get a political agreement, meaning from the president or from the president and the cabinet, to really approve an entrepreneurship center. it could potentially be the catalyst for all activities about it, where you maybe potentially could make a big announcements to make sure that everyone's aware of it, and then you could start getting people engaged. Now, to get that going, I would recommend few steps. So remember, the big idea, a center of entrepreneurship or innovation, place, physical and non-physical. The second is to make this happen, I would recommend first establishing a committee. These committees probably should be including the deans or some of the deans at least involved as much as you can, and some of the professors that teach some of these classes. And that could be potentially the beginning of it. Now, you don't have to get a buy-in from all of them, but you need to buy in from most of them. And then you need to get them to, I'm going to say, create a couple of them to be your champions. So having side conversations before you do that is really important. And then don't ask for a lot of time, ask for a little time. Meaning, don't ask, I need a 2 or 3 hour meetings. I would say I need 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes talk to discuss this topic. And assume that they've already been thinking about this, because typically throughout the last 15 years, many deans of schools, whatever school it is, whether it's medical or business or something else, have been thinking and exploring ideas about infusing entrepreneurship into their classrooms. And many now understand that it's not necessarily business when you talk about entrepreneurship. You're talking about a mindset, a way of thinking, looking at a problem, solving it, looking for opportunities and creating it. And that is really different than really setting up a business and making money on it. Not saying that entrepreneurs don't want to make money. I'm just saying it's a mindset that we're looking for. So many colleges now are doing that. So if you go with the assumption that they're probably thinking about entrepreneurship already, so how can I get them engaged? And that potentially they could have these classes on their own, college. It's important. More important is to make sure that the entrepreneurs that we want to expose to these ideas, you really want them to be diversified as well as exposed to multiple things. So one of the things I would want to make sure that is, as we all know it, multidisciplinary action, right? Meaning that I want to have maybe a doctor, a PhD candidate, an engineering student, a marketing student, a humanities student, all working together on solving a problem under this one class to create this momentum of entrepreneurship mindset within the college. So the first thing, a center. To get the center going, think about creating a subcommittee or committees or subcommittees that brings some few people together to talk about what would that look like, that center. Then third, start getting some champions within those schools to speak about this center to create momentum on it. And then third, I'm going to say launch a program. Now, I know this is nerve-wracking for many, but you got to launch a program. A program meaning that, hey, we do entrepreneurship training or development. We do have speakers come talk about different topics. And then think about establishing a cohort style program or ad hoc style program, meaning someone has a question or whatever, they could come and you could triage them to the different programs that already exist in your community. If you have nothing else existing, you can potentially launch a program, maybe a summer program or after school program or during school program that allows individuals with an idea to come explore what would it look like to start or grow that business. What I'll also encourage you is to think about, it does not have to be technology. Many times what I've seen is sometimes the founders of these institutions, they want to have high tech, high growth, and that's all they want to deal with. And reality is, if you start infusing this entrepreneurship mindset within your college, you might find that there are people who might want to open a restaurant or a gym or something else. I encourage you to let them explore these ideas within your center, but also have different programs or different tracks for those different ideas. And then as you do that, I would also encourage you to make sure that you start offering at least entrepreneurship classes. There are many ways you could do that. One of the best classes I've ever been able to mentor is a class taught at one of the schools I mentored. And basically they offer this class to all students, masters and for graduate and undergraduate. And they allowed any students from any college to come and take it. And they put them up in teams of 4 to 5, maybe 7, and let them work on a challenge or an opportunity or a business, technology to be transferred with a mentor from the outside to then pitch an investor and then pitch VCs. Now, it doesn't have to be that way, but the concept of putting, teams of 4 to 5 to 7, working on a problem, solving it, and then coming up with a solution for a business idea that could make that work potentially could be a great class to teach that allows, again, this infusion of multiple colleges working together through this multidisciplined approach to the entrepreneurship mindset and ways. There's lots more to talk about, but I hope these few nuggets allows you to establish a great program within your college. Thanks for joining. I'm your host, Faris Alami.